Okay, in this example we're going to look at creating a movie of a finished master model from Joel Smith. So the idea here is that you've got your finished piece and you need to get some nice rendering of it, either for customer approval or perhaps for a catalogue or something along those lines. And there's two options we have here. One is to create a simple self-contained movie, and the other thing would be to create a viewer which you could either post on your own website or perhaps send somebody an email which actually allows them to turn and view the model. Now what I'm going to do first then is I've got a project already opened up, so we're just looking in the project view, and under project tools I have the option movie, so I'm going to select that and we'll just take a look at this page. Firstly, it's asking us for a name for our movie, so this will be a little subfolder name, so I'll keep the default name for this. Compress images basically says whether or not we're going to use bitmap or JPEG images. So the JPEG images are much smaller than the bitmap, but there is some loss of image quality. And then to start with, we're going to use the viewer option. But before I go any further, let's set up the 3D view appropriately. The first thing I'm going to do is I want to remove this X, Y, and Z origin indicator, the red, green, and blue arrows, and I can do that by just toggling the origin button so that it disappears. The next thing I want to do is set the size of the view that I'm going to capture. So I'm going to convert my 3D view to a proper window display rather than full screen. And this is actually the size of the area that will be captured, and so this determines really the file size and also the resolution of the images that we're going to create. The next thing I'm going to do is view the model straight in from the side, which is along the X view, and then I'm going to just zoom and position this ring a little bit higher up, because it's got a larger head obviously than the back. As it turns, I don't want to lose any of it outside of the viewing area. So I'm all ready to go now, that's fine. I've got the viewer set and I've got the number of frames here as 8 frames, but it's per axis, so it's going to turn through 8 steps for each of the orientations that we're going to allow you to turn around. So the upshot of that is actually we'll have 8 by 8 frames, and you can see as I change the number here, the number of frames goes up by the square of the frames per axis. So I'm going to leave it at 8, which is 64 images in total. I'm going to ask it to display once created the viewer. Now the viewer is simply a web page, but what we can do is just fire that up and look at it straight away once we've created it if I put that tick box on. Okay, so that's fine, and I'm just going to click accept, and we can see that the wizard starts off now and it tells us how many frames it's calculating in the bottom here. Now it's important while it's calculating these frames that we don't obscure the capture area, the 3D view area, with any other windows while we're capturing, because they will be caught in the movie if we're not careful. So we must just leave that ticking over. Now you can see that it's taking around about a second and a half per frame, so it's going to take about 2 minutes in total. So I'm just going to pause this movie until it's finished and then I'll restart it again. Okay, so here we are now with the last few frames calculating. Now when it's finished, it's going to try and run this script in a page on Internet Explorer. And as I expected here, I've got a little warning come up in the top, which some of you may see when you first run this. And in this case, it's due to Service Pack 2 on Windows XP, the security settings. But if you have any other security software, that might also restrict the active content of pages. So we do just need to allow that content to run. We get a little warning, which we say yes to. And now we're running the page as you'd expect. So I'm just going to remove some of these buttons so we can see it full screen. So here is our viewer, but it's really just a straightforward HTML page. I've got some options here to nudge the model around and view it from different orientations. And I can also spin it and nudge it as it spins to view the finished ring. Okay. Now as this stands, I want to show you the file structure on the disk so you can see where this comes from. So I'm going to just view the project folder that contained my 3DP file, and as you can see here I've got a movie folder been created by the wizard, and inside that is another folder with the name of the particular movie that we defined in ArtCam when we first created it. and inside that is the HTML page that we're now looking at, and it is referencing a series of images of each orientation of the model. So in this form, this plain HTML page and the associated images are very flexible. You could use them on your own web page, you could link them together on a CD, you could do a variety of things. It's just straightforward HTML. But another great thing that you can do with Internet Explorer that just comes with Windows is to save as the entire web page here as a web archive, which is a single file called an MHT file. And if I save this file out as an MHT file, it'll be a single compressed file, all the images and everything together, which you could then send as an attachment to an email, and it's much smaller. Okay, so that's creating a viewer using ArtCamp JewelSmith.